we are announcing Data Activator. And what is Data Activator? Well, Data Activator is this automated system that sits on top of OneLake, look at all the data artifacts that we have inside of OneLake and constantly examine them to see if some rules are being met, if some action needs to be taken automatically, and constantly evaluating at real time. And when something is found, we can notify a user, we can start a Power Automate flow, we can call the store procedure or maybe an Azure function. This is a system that automatically takes action whenever something's happened that needs to be taken action on. So let's take a look first time. What is Data Activator? Let's run the video.
In this scenario, we're a logistics company tracking data coming from sensors on our packages and trucks for things like the temperature of the packages, the humidity, or the status code of the trucks. This data is coming through event stream from IoT sensors, but it could just as easily be data from a Power BI report, a data warehouse, or OneLake. I'm looking at the raw events here, and I want to create triggers for when packages get too hot. So I'll start from the temperature column and create a trigger. The first thing I need to do is tell Data Activator what uniquely identifies individual packages. Now I'm looking at the raw temperature values coming from those sensor readings. We've taken a sample of 5 packages, but there are thousands being tracked here, and this can scale up to hundreds of thousands or even millions of objects tracked in the system. The first thing I'm going to do is group this over time into 5-minute increments, just to help smooth out any anomalies or spikes in the data. Then I'm going to set what the condition is that I want to check for. In this case, when the value becomes greater than a certain threshold. If I type in 32, by default, it's going to check for every time the value goes over that amount. But I could also say I want to check when it goes over that value and stays there for a certain length of time. Or maybe when it goes over the threshold, say 5 times over the course of an hour. Underneath, I can see charts of what those thresholds are, and also at the bottom I can see how many times over the last few hours this trigger would have fired for all of the packages in the system. This looks a little bit noisy, so I'm going to go back and change this to 35 so that I can actually see, yeah, this is a much better threshold. There's fewer of these activations happening. So the last thing I want to do is say, what action do I want to take when we detect this? I can send a notification through email or Teams, but I can reach into operational systems as well using Power Automate. I can even go and activate other Fabric items, for example, kicking off a data pipeline refresh or retraining a machine learning model. So I'm going to do a Teams message here, and it's filled in with my details and a little message about the action. What I'm going to do now is test this, just using some of the recent bits of data that have been detected. Over here in Teams, I can see the message, I can see that it was a test, I can see the time the trigger would have fired, the package ID, and the temperature that would have caused it. So back over, I'm going to go and start that trigger, and now it's running in the background, monitoring the data and alerting accordingly. Now, when you think about monitoring all these actions that are happening in your business in real time, you can't just take an aggregated view. Data Activator is operating and alerting on the individual business objects, like one specific package that's overheating. Let's fast forward a little here, and in this monitoring view, you can see now I've added some more objects in a slightly richer model, and I'm tracking a much larger number of packages in the system here too. But I can still see what are the packages and what hotspots there might be of when triggers were firing. I can see the history down to individual instances and individual times when those triggers were activated. So this helps me iterate on those triggers, iterate on those rules, get my business into a good state and keep it there. In just a few minutes, I've been able to make a real-time operational alerting system without writing any code using Data Activator.